Early evening settled over Brooklyn's most exclusive restaurant, a place where polished glass and low murmurs wrapped around the wealthy like armor. Audrey Collins sat alone at a corner table, her tailored coat folded neatly beside her, the condensation on her untouched water tracing the minutes she'd already been dismissed by someone who never arrived. She kept her chin lifted, but beneath it lived a quiet, burning humiliation she refused to show. At the next table, a man in a worn denim jacket finally spoke, not loudly, but with a certainty that cut through the room. "Your blind date bailed on you too?" Audrey's eyes snapped toward him. Lucas Hayes, though she didn't know his name yet. His expression steady, not mocking, almost protective in a way she didn't understand. "I wasn't planning to say it out loud," she answered, voice tighter than she meant. In that instant, something electric passed between them. Two strangers caught in the same quiet abandonment, one of them a billionaire hiding from her own loneliness, the other a single father who looked like he'd been carrying disappointment far longer than tonight. And just as Audrey prepared to walk out, Lucas leaned in with a question that stopped her cold, one she never expected to hear from a man like him. "Stay to see where this moment leads. Like the video and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales for more powerful stories." The moment Audrey stepped out of the restaurant that first night, the city felt different, sharper around the edges, as if watching her in a way it never had before. She walked with the steady, practiced confidence of a woman who spent years entering boardrooms where every gesture mattered, yet something inside her moved with unfamiliar hesitation. Lucas's voice lingered in her thoughts, that quiet steadiness he carried even when his life seemed held together by worn fabric and responsibility. She had met thousands of men with more money than compassion, more ambition than heart. None had looked at her the way he had that night, without wanting anything except truth. The next evening she arrived early, an uncharacteristic slip. She never arrived early for anything, not even quarterly reviews. But tonight was different. The restaurant glowed with warm gold lighting, casting soft reflections on the windows as the city darkened outside. Audrey tried to steady her breathing, reminding herself this wasn't a date, just two people meeting again, exploring a connection neither had expected. Lucas entered moments later, wearing a clean shirt that still carried the faint wrinkles of being rushed from a dryer. His smile appeared the second he spotted her, genuine and grateful, as if he had been afraid she wouldn't show. "Evening," he said softly. "I hope you didn't wait long." "I just got here," she lied, though the staff knew otherwise. As they settled into conversation, something unexpected happened. The restaurant manager, a tall man named Richard Crane, hovered nearby, eyes narrowing at Lucas. Audrey noticed the shift instantly. Crane's posture stiffened the way it did around people he decided weren't worth his attention, a habit she recognized far too well from corporate dinners. She saw the small, patronizing tilt of his chin, the forced politeness he used only when he wished customers would leave quietly. When Crane finally approached the table, his smile was tight enough to crack. "Miss Collins," he greeted her. "We didn't have you on the reservation list this time. Your companion. Is he joining you for the full evening?" Audrey felt something cold stir inside her. "Yes," she replied. "Is there a problem?" Crane ignored her question. His attention fixed on Lucas's jacket, the worn seams, the frayed threads near the pocket. "We maintain a certain standard for our dining experience. I'm sure you understand." Lucas stiffened, swallowing the words that wanted to rise. He looked like a man used to pushing down pride for the sake of his son, but Audrey was not accustomed to swallowing anything. Not insults, not prejudice, not the quiet cruelty of a man who thought authority gave him permission to demean others. "Your standards seem flexible," she said coolly. "Last week, you served a venture capitalist so drunk he fell asleep on the table." Crane's lips thinned. That guest was a long-term client. And he wasn't wearing a jacket held together by its last thread? Audrey pressed. Lucas touched her hand lightly, a silent plea not to escalate, but she could see the shame burning in him. Shame he didn't deserve. She turned back to Crane, her voice lower now, sharp enough to cut. "If you have something to say about my guest, say it. Don't hide behind policy." Crane exhaled through his nose, then finally allowed the ugliness beneath his professionalism to surface. This establishment is not suitable for people who can't meet the expected appearance. I'm sure he's a fine man, but this is not the place for him. Lucas's shoulders tightened. I can leave, he murmured. This isn't worth. It is worth it, Audrey interrupted. Her pulse thudded like a warning bell. She stood, her chair scraping the floor. Conversations around the room faded into whispers. This man, she said calmly, treated me with more respect than half the men who've bought their way into your best tables. If anyone doesn't belong here, it's the people who believe money determines worth. Crane opened his mouth, but Audrey was already reaching into her bag. She pulled out her card and placed it on the table. Not a credit card, but a business card bearing her full name. The name Richard Crane had never noticed, never connected. Audrey Collins, founder and CEO, Collins Holdings Group. The color drained from his face. Collins Holdings wasn't just a corporation. It controlled several major hospitality investment portfolios, including stakes in the very company that owned this restaurant chain. For the first time, Crane understood the weight of his mistake. Ms. Collins, I didn't realize. That's the problem, she cut in. You treat people based on what you think they can offer you. Crane stammered. Please, allow me to. No, Audrey said, her tone final. You've said enough. The owner of the restaurant, alerted immediately by staff, arrived within minutes. He apologized profusely, bowing his head as he dismissed Crane on the spot. Crane's face crumpled, and he stared at Audrey with a mix of fury and fear, but she held his gaze without flinching. Lucas watched quietly, torn between gratitude and discomfort. When Crane was escorted out, Audrey finally sat again. You didn't have to do that, Lucas murmured. She looked at him, eyes softer now. I didn't do it because you needed defending. I did it because he needed consequences. Lucas exhaled slowly. Ethan's school deals with people like him all the time. I just get tired of fighting. You shouldn't have to fight alone. Something warm flickered across Lucas's face, a recognition that frightened him with its intensity. As dinner progressed, their conversation deepened. Lucas spoke about Ethan. His shy smile, his love for drawing, the nights he fell asleep holding a toy airplane. Audrey listened, absorbing every detail with a tenderness she didn't know she possessed. In return, she shared pieces of her own life. Lonely victories, hollow celebrations, the weight of leading a company built on the expectation she'd sacrifice herself to keep it alive. Later, as they walked outside, the wind cutting through the streets, Lucas's phone rang. He answered quickly, then sighed with relief. Just the neighbor. Ethan's asleep. Audrey smiled. Good. Lucas hesitated. Audrey. Tonight meant a lot to me. More than you know. She met his gaze, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. It meant something to me too. He took a step closer, not touching her, just closing the distance between two lives that had spent years running parallel without ever meeting. I don't know what this is, he admitted. But I want to see where it goes. Her breath caught, not in fear, but in a realization she wasn't ready to name. So do I. But their moment was shattered when someone stormed up the sidewalk. Crane, face flushed with rage. Security had clearly let him slip out the back. He pointed at Lucas, spitting words he'd held back inside. You think you belong here. Men like you drag the whole place down. She's using you for pity points. Audrey stepped forward, voice like steel. You don't get to speak to him. Not now, not ever. Crane ignored her. He's nothing. Just a broke single dad taking advantage of a woman who feels guilty for having too much. Lucas flinched, because Crane's words hit the one place he never wanted exposed. But Audrey didn't give him time to sink deeper. You were fired because of your behavior, she said. But your biggest mistake wasn't insulting him. It was assuming I'd tolerate cowardice disguised as authority. Crane sneered. You can't ruin my life over a small insult. Audrey pulled out her phone. You're right. It'll be ruined because of the report I'm sending your corporate office, including your recorded comments tonight. Crane paled. You recorded? The restaurant does, she replied. Exterior and interior surveillance. I will personally ensure the incident is forwarded to every location you apply to next. Hospitality has no room for prejudice. Crane realized then that this wasn't just a firing. It was a reckoning. You can't do this, he whispered, but the fight had drained from him. I'm not doing it, Audrey said. You did. Crane stumbled backward as two security guards approached, not to remove him this time, but to escort him off the premises entirely. He didn't look at Lucas again. He couldn't. When he disappeared around the corner, the city seemed to exhale with them. Lucas ran a hand through his hair, overwhelmed. I didn't want trouble. You didn't cause it. He looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. Not as a CEO, not as a woman with power, but as someone who chose to use it for good. Audrey, why stand up for me like that? She stepped closer, her voice gentler now. Because someone should have done it a long time ago. And because you deserve a world that doesn't make you feel small for trying your best. Lucas swallowed hard. I'm not used to people fighting for me. Well, she said, get used to it. The wind brushed past them, lifting strands of Audrey's hair as the noise of the street softened into something intimate. Lucas smiled, a real one that carried the quiet hope of a man finally seen. So what happens now? She returned the smile, her eyes warm. Now, we go forward. But fate wasn't finished with them, not yet. Because the next day, Audrey walked into her office and found a message waiting. A message with Crane's name attached, threatening a lawsuit he couldn't possibly win. But one that would expose Lucas's privacy, his job, his custody arrangement. Crane wanted revenge. And Audrey Collins was not a woman who let threats linger. In the days that followed Crane's reckless threat, something shifted inside Audrey. She had spent years building a life where every move was calculated, every emotion restrained, yet standing beside Lucas had shown her a strength she didn't know she possessed, the kind that didn't come from power but from choosing what was right even when it was difficult. When her legal team confirmed Crane's accusations held no weight, she didn't feel triumph. She felt clarity. His downfall wasn't the victory. The real victory was finally refusing to shrink herself to keep the peace. Lucas met her outside her office the next afternoon, Ethan's drawing tucked into his hand. He wanted you to have this, Lucas said, smiling softly. It was a picture of three figures, small, simple lines, but all holding hands. Audrey traced the colors with her thumb, realizing for the first time in years that someone had drawn a place for her. Feels different, Lucas murmured. It does, she answered, and the honesty in her voice surprised even her. The city lights flickered on around them, casting their shadows forward as if showing the path they hadn't dared imagine before. And as they walked toward the street, shoulder to shoulder, the future didn't feel like a negotiation anymore. Felt like a beginning. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales to help our channel grow and bring more powerful stories to life.